you've been working your butt off in Paris.
Yes, I have.
What kind of a schedule have you been on?
And that's why I have the Jack Nicholson shades. I'm channeling Jack Nicholson. I have a terrible, terrible viral conjunctivitis, so I don't want anybody to even look at my vampire eyes.
But the reason you put yourself out to come here to South by was because you had a situation. You had a movie that was under a lot of duress, and you had to pull it out. And I think you might have done well here.
Well, I will support. Obviously, I support the things I love, and I love this movie. The film will exist, and it'll walk and talk the way it walks and talks, and people will, judge it based on its own merits. Hopefully, we're able to do that. I mean,
It played very well last night.
I think it played
You
great.
must be in a good mood.
It played great. It has a very odd tone, and so very often you have to prepare people that the fact that even though it's about a man who talks through a puppet, it is not a comedy, and there are light moments in the movie that gradually move into a very, very dark and very emotional tale that you have to be ready for. It does have a very European spirit. It's very intellectual, and it's also very emotional at the same time, and sometimes American audiences are kind of uncomfortable with that. They're sort of like, wait, is it a head movie? Is it a heart movie? Which one is it? And
You're saying it's very intellectual. I would say it's fairly accessible, actually.
Oh, good. Okay.
I mean, it's a real family drama, and we all have a black cousin somewhere. Somebody we know has gone through this. It's about mental illness, really, and about a family falling apart. And the character you play, the mom, she's desperately trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah, the character of Meredith, it was very important for me to have an actress who could anchor the film and the drama, and who could play opposite Mel and be, in some ways, the audience's eyes throughout the film. She's the person who starts off the movie being somewhat suspicious, but then accepting him, and then little by little understanding that this survival tool, this puppet survival tool that he's put on his hand, is now starting to destroy his life, and that she has to separate from him in order to so that he can get better. And that really is the audience's perspective in the movie. And so, I don't know, I thought, who am I going to get? So I was like, I'll just get myself.
And you swore you'd never do that.
I swore I'd never do it again. And Mel and I, he kids me about that, because that was, I think, my first piece of advice to him when he was doing Braveheart. I said, because he was in Man Without a Face too, and I said to him, you're gonna be really happy when you finally make a movie and you're not acting. You're gonna see it's a different experience. And when he finally did Passion of the Christ, I think he called me and was like, "You're right. I'm never doing it again."
Now you two worked together on Maverick, and you've been really, really close friends ever since. That's a really long time.
It's a long time, and we never worked together again since Maverick. We wanted to, but we never did. And he's somebody that I've known for a long time.
And you've been really loyal. You've been a good friend. You support him through thick and thin, and he's been through some thin lately. What did you see in that script that made you realize that he would be the right person to play that part?
Well, I knew he had a combination of both things, that he understood the lightness and the charm in some ways of the character in the beginning, the wit of the film in the beginning, that he could handle that. And I also know his darker side, and I know that he's somebody that really has thoughts and feelings and is incredibly sensitive about this particular topic, about struggling. His struggles are etched all over his face. And
they are, and they're in his eyes.
Yeah.
And you see it right there. It's right on the surface. He's not hiding it.
So many of the themes in the film, in some ways, are incredibly personal to him and to me. This is my life. This is the story of my life. It's not the most popular part of my life, but it's definitely the story of my life.
How is it the story of your life?
Well, I read this great article not too long ago about obsessive ruminators, and basically it's a phenomenon of people who will take on a topic that's dramatic, the death of a friend, or something happened at work, and they keep thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it, and they think about it over and over again. Why did this happen? Why did he do that? Why did this happen? And this obsessive ruminating quality is what makes for great art. There's no such thing as a great writer who just types something and it comes out of the typewriter and it's just perfect. It isn't perfect. You have to keep thinking about it and keep feeling it and feeling it over and over again, enjoying that process of refining it emotionally. That's what we do as actors, and people who are drawn to that in some ways are depressive. They can, it is a depressive process. I think it, in some ways, is a spiritual crisis that over and over again takes you to a more evolved place. Because you really can't get over things until you get in there and figure out, why did this happen, and dissect them.
All right, let's analyze this. If I'm going to be an armchair psychologist here, you have had, in a way, a career that is also a split personality, in the sense that what you do as an actor
Yep.
is very different from what you do as a director.
Yep.
So somewhere in here you figured out, it's almost the James Franco theory here, you know, go for the creative freedom in one part of, perhaps, well, you say it, don't let me say it.
My films as a director are very different than the films that I act in. I had a very long career as an actor, 45 years in the business as an actor.
Not over yet.
It's not over yet, but I've made some edgy, interesting films, but mostly mainstream movies that were singular characters. A lot of genre films, a lot of thrillers, and I guess I would be considered an A-list actor. And the nice thing about directing is that I don't have to do that as a director. I don't have to be
Worried
A-list.
about the commercial potential.
I can make the films that in some ways are, they express my language. You know, it's the music that I believe in, it's the lives that I've lived. They're very personal films. And I'm just grateful that there's somebody out there with either 20 cents or $20,000 or $20 million that's willing to make them, and I'll make them for whatever amount of money they give them to me. You know, I'm just really, really lucky that I'm able to get a movie off the ground.
Well, in this crazy indie world that we're in right now, but you actually got a reprieve here, if I'm not mistaken, in the sense that you got some more time in the editing room.
Yeah, this film needed a lot more time in the editing room. It was a very quirky script, why it was on the top of the blacklist is because it was the 100 best unproduced screenplays, and it was unproduced for a reason. It was a difficult script, a very quirky script, very interesting script, but the tone was odd, and this particular tone really required a lot of massaging in post and some reshoots and
So
some
do you
reimagining.
think that the movie is finally going to reach an audience that is going to forgive Mel for everything that he's done?
I have no idea. I don't think forgiveness is what we're looking for. I think you're hoping that you can have an artistic experience where you can see what somebody does on screen and judge that for what it is. His personal life has nothing to do with what he does on screen, except, of course, that he brings the whole host of everything that he's lived to every character, like we all do. I personally, as I say to Mel, look, I'm happy to see you in your underwear, but I'm not interested in seeing you in your underwear against your will. That's just not something that I am interested in. I don't want to have my life or anybody's life that I care about dragged through the internet. We all have struggles, and his struggles are, I hate to say it, not that unusual. They just happen to be publicized everywhere.
We have the
in
right
world.
to some privacy too, don't we?
But he's somebody that the man that I know is amazingly talented, amazingly giving, incredibly loyal as a friend, and is probably the most beloved person on any movie set that I've ever met. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to
That's a whole other aspect of this. I mean, that's an interesting point, because we all know, anyone who's been in Hollywood a really long time, we talk to crew, we know who likes who. We know who, Sandra Bullock. People like Sandra Bullock.
love
okay?
Sandy, yeah, I
People,
love Sandy.
people like Jodie.
Yeah.
People who behave well, people who are good people who have good values on a movie set. We all
who are
know
real.
that.
And
We
who are
all
real.
know that. And you're right about that. That's true of Mel. And it's been true of a lot of the, we all get to know people over the years, and we know who's a good person on, just in terms of dealing with them.
That's right.
But
Yeah, that's right. And anyways, I mean, I am really grateful to his performance on screen. It's just, he brought so much to it, and so much pain to it, really. There's so much pain in that character, and I think he laid it all out there, and I will always be grateful for that. And I think that he knows, and maybe, I don't know, but I think maybe he was able to do that because he knows that he could trust me, and that I would never betray his trust.
But some of the stuff that was going on while, at the very end of this shooting process. So you actually were aware of some of what was going on. And he was aware.
Yeah. We definitely through certainly the end, the reshoot part of the film. There was was probably the acme of his worst struggles.
And he
it's
delivered
hard
anyway.
for me to put your arms around somebody you care about and to watch them go through that.
As the director in this situation, you were really sensitive to what the actors needed without imposing a lot of style on them.
Right.
Would you explain what your aesthetic was? Because I actually think this is in many ways the leanest and most disciplined of all your films, but you didn't get away of the story you were telling.
Yeah. Well, it does have a very strong signature style to it. It's very classic style, and widescreen, anamorphic lenses, all of these things that help the phenomenon of having two people on camera all the time, the puppet and Mel, but also gives it a much more prosaic, poetic quality to it. In some ways it's very European, it's very blue. It has a formality to it. The music has a formality to it. It's dance, Argentinian tango and a waltz, very European sensibility to a very American story. And
Suburban.
Yeah,
High
suburban
school,
America.
coming of age.
Exactly. And I think that's something that I've always been drawn to. It was true of Little Man Tate as well. That's a quintessential Louis Malle movie transposed into an American story. I do tend to do that, but I do think that the style, I hope that my style never overwhelms the story of the film, and that that the story dictates the style of the movie, and not the other way around. So I feel like there is a lot of style in the film, but that it supports the film that I'm trying to tell, and it doesn't get in the way of the actors. I wanted this film, in order to get to the end result of what I was looking for, which I kept saying to Mel, is I want to get to that last scene, or a part of the last scene where the puppet looks at him and says, "I love you, and no one else will ever love you the way that I love you, and that's why I'll never let you go back." That I wanted that to be the biggest, most beautiful love story moment with no laughter at all, and I wanted that to be, the kind of scene that brings tears to your eyes, and to have it be told by a puppet, of course, completely absurd. In order to do that, you have to build the audience. You have to build the audience through the drama from the beginning, and you can't start doing silly crane shots and whip pans and CGI eyes and big fat fish eye lens close-ups on the puppet. And there was a real temptation to do that, and there was a lot of me protecting the movie from that. Yes.
You were fighting with yourself.
Well, not necessarily with myself, but there definitely, I definitely had to stand my ground and say I'm making a drama, and I know what it takes to make a drama, and I don't want to, mess it up from the beginning by going for the cheap shot.
Now, the other person, Anton Yelchin is terrific. I think we've discovered that in the past, although we haven't seen him do this. Jennifer Lawrence proves that she's not a one-shot here.
Jennifer Lawrence is great in the film. I'm so lucky to have her, and I had seen Winter's Bone, or parts of Winter's Bone, so I knew how great she was. And that particular part in our film, Nora, the character in our film, was so difficult to cast. I saw hundreds of girls, and once I found Jennifer, I said, she's the one I want, and I want to rewrite the whole part for her.
How did you rewrite it?
Well, in the original, she could do everything well. She was beautiful. She was smart. She had all this banter, which I took out, and she was an incredible artist. And she was entirely self-knowledgeable, psychobabble person. Could tell you everything about your psyche. And I just thought it was much more interesting to have somebody who had all of this pain and had absolutely no idea how to handle it at all, and was unable to be expressive and unable to really lay claim to it at all. And I thought that made for an interesting, almost like a shadow issues that she had with Anton's character, who can do only that. He's the guy who can give voice to all of that pain, and yet hasn't really lived anything tragic in his life.
Can you describe what the quality is that Jennifer brings as an actress? Because there is something really unusual about her.
I think she has this, it's almost like a lifetime of pain that she's lived in another lifetime that comes out through her face. And let me tell you something, Jennifer Lawrence is a funny person. There's no tragedy happening with Jennifer Lawrence.
The disconnect between the person you meet is
Kentucky
huge.
girl, laughing, joking girl, and yet she has this thing that just comes out in her face. She just can't help it,
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers.